So today I want to talk about the mysteries of the world and is there a God? I used to be extremely religious growing up, but that's because those are my mom's values, my family values, and um, I'm not gonna lie, I've always felt some sort of presence in growing up because I was more into reading the Bible and just really curious about history during the time Jesus walked the planet. I really didn't start believing in like the afterlife or a secret world of demons and angels or any of that until there was this one time I got really sick and um, I, I guess you can call it a dream that was like an out of body experience in which I saw myself walking outside. I actually, in the dream, I saw myself looking at myself outside, and myself that was outside saw these stairs. They were going up. They were going up into the sky. I remember walking up those stairs, and I remember once I got to the top, there was clouds and lights. But then that was it. I didn't see anything else. And then I woke up. When I woke up, I had this fever. I felt like I was literally walking on clouds, and I went and told my mom. And she put her hand on my forehead to see if I was sick. And I had a raging headache. I felt like my brain was loose in my skull, and I had a temperature. So she sent me to the doctor. And, I got some medicine, found out I had some things wrong with my body. But I will say, once I came into foster care after my adopted parents passed away, I didn't feel this presence anymore. I think because I was so sad because of what just transpired with my parents, passing away, I became depressed and sad. And it seemed like there was mostly raining clouds everywhere. It just felt like everything was so depressing. And there have been times since then, up until I got out of the military, that I was feels that presence that I once felt when I was a child come and go every now and again. And normally was accompanied with a vision that made it seem like I was having a deja vu. But it wasn't until recently, 2020, that I decided to find my faith back in God a little bit more. And it's not because of, it wasn't because of desperation, actually. I remember being in my home and just looking at what was happening on the news, and I would cry and cry and cry. I would look in the mirror, I would yell, and I would say, like, why is this happening? Why are you letting this happen? Just screaming, like, is there a God? If there is, why would someone let this happen when it comes to the children, when it comes to the vaccines, when it comes to everything? Why are you letting this happen? Why are the anti-Semitic, not the anti-Semitic, but the anti-whiteness, the Black Lives Matter, the burning of everything? Why is this happening? And I started praying to God more instead of getting angry inside and feeling like I'm helpless and can't and couldn't do anything to solve what's going on in society. And like, honestly, I know this might sound crazy, y'all, but I think God heard me and started telling me to do things. Because, like, you can call it deja vu. And being a scientist, you have your scientific method when it comes to things. When it comes to, I'm a mathematician, and for things we cannot solve for, we put an X, we put some variable there. There have been things that have transpired in my life over the past 2 years since COVID happened that I cannot explain. And I have to put it in this variable. And that variable to me is no other than God. And I believe Einstein said something very similar to this when it comes to, God and science, because there are things we cannot account for. There's things that we have no explanation why. No scientific method will prove. Everything will just be inconclusive, cannot compute. And this is one of those. My first sign when the soldiers died, those 13 soldiers died, that was my awakening. And something told me to go out. I was so angry, but I was calm and scared at the same time. I went to an auto zone and I got markers. And I can show you guys pictures of what I had put on my car at first. I just started writing all over my car. I'm pretty sure people thought I was crazy, but something miraculous happened. My neighborhood that I lived in, it's brand new subdivision development. They were still building houses. Like my next door neighbor house wasn't even done when I moved in. But my neighbors across the street and on the other side, they were there. Like growing up, my neighborhood was very friendly. We would talk to my neighbors. We had a kid that lived next door, this white guy, his name was Raymond, and he was the only other kid on our street, and we played every single time we wanted to go out. We played with each other, and once I had moved into my home in Tucson, I was so happy because I felt like I was going to be in community and I can go to my neighbor's house and have dinner and host things. I was just super excited because it's like I finally have some normalcy in my life after years of just beating myself down in foster care and how much damage that did to me when it came to not trusting people. And the one thing I noticed going to my neighbors, everyone had these ring lights and these ring and door answering machines on their doors. So I know they can see me, but yet no one was answering their doors. Everyone was scared. No one would say anything. And I can't help but think that this is something that our government wanted. They wanted us to be scared of our neighbors. They wanted us to be so self-isolating that anyone who comes near us, we would see them as a threat. And knowing me, the type of person I am very friendly. I do like to go out and meet people. I do like to go out and talk to individuals. I'm 9 times out of 10 just scared to do so. But when I'm in a smaller area, when it's just me, I'm more comfortable. So I wanted to at least say hello to my next door neighbors that were adjacent to me and then next door. It wasn't until I wrote that on my car, and because my views were so vocal and so loud, it's like all of a sudden their guards were down. They didn't see me no longer as a threat because I've literally voiced my opinions out loud for the whole world to see that I didn't like what was going on, that I think that all of us should work together, be together. I shouldn't be scared of you because you're white, and you shouldn't be scared of me because I'm black. I shouldn't be scared of you because you're Hispanic, and vice versa. Like, we can all work together. We don't need, to live on some socialism, type system, some communist type system, because when you live in a system like that, it requires control. And how you require control is by controlling the narrative. And if the narrative means that you need to hate a certain subsets of people, that's what it requires in order for it to stay alive. It literally breeds on lies. So when I mean to tell you, after I wrote that on my car, and I was so scared. I got my car damaged when I was in Phoenix by most likely a liberal. I will still have to buff that out. But my neighbors, it was like a 180. I would get waves every single time, they would come by. There was then an individual who was so brave enough to actually put a flagpole in the front of their yard to show how patriotic they were. I can't believe they actually got it approved by the HOA to have this pole. Like, it's like the legit pole, like the rebel, yeah, like that type pole, like right dead smack in the middle of their their front yard. My neighbor that was across the street that had they were a family and they just had a kid, like their door just swung open when I needed help one day. I didn't have something in my home, and a lot of times when I would go to these individuals' home and knock on their door, I know they're home because their cars are there, but it was like a complete 180. People would come and talk to me. People would come and open their doors for me. Whenever their dog would get lost, their dog would come straight to my house. It was insane. So I think God told me to do that so that it would bring some of the tensions down in my neighborhood. And once I did, like, there were more kids out playing right in my little cul-de-sac, because I was like on a corner. They were always right there. Like I said, I want every American to feel safe and not feel like they aren't safe because of their views. The second, weird thing that I believe God told me to do, since I was working remote, actually oh my God. So that was the first thing. The car thing where I wrote all over my car, that was the second thing. The first thing was this. So I was working at Raytheon. I loved working at Raytheon. I have nothing but great things to say about Raytheon. I'm pretty sure I've already mentioned that before. It was like right after Biden got elected in 2020. I remember tuning in to a conference that he had, and it stood out to me because it was very weird. I couldn't understand why a reporter had asked him a very specific question that no one was even talking about this at all. But this individual had asked Biden, and I'm pretty sure all you guys would know it, if he would mandate taking vaccine, and he had basically answered, no, I do not believe Americans need to be forced that way, nor do he think that is his responsibility. He believes that every American, are well within their rights and have the wits about them to go out and seek medical attention and heed the advice of their doctors, right? I distinctively remember him saying this, but what stuck in my head was the reporter asking the question. So it wasn't a few weeks later I started, writing and learning Node.js so I can look for a blockchain job, because there was a lot of blockchain type roles available more remote. And so I started learning Node.js and web stuff because I was coming from an embedded background. Um, then fast forward to 2021, I believe it was like right after, uh, it was like right after February, the vaccine became available, like widespread. And in June, it was like the end of June. I don't know why. I don't know why. But I believe God told me to start looking for a job. So, like clockwork, I went and started brushing up my resume. I brushed up my resume and started applying for jobs. Within like a week, I had 5 interviews set up. And in 2 weeks, I ended up getting 3 job offers. One was a hybrid, in which I would have had to move to New Mexico. And knowing that New Mexico was a liberal state, that was out of the question. The second, and they had just like draconic lockdowns in New Mexico than Arizona, and we're right next door. So I said, that's a negative. The second job did require me to be full on campus, and that was in Phoenix. And then the third was completely remote with a job that was out in Virginia. So I decided to go ahead and take the job in Virginia. At this time, there was no mandates, no nothing forcing people to take the vaccine, not at all. I secured that job and started working, and not even 2 weeks later, vaccine mandates come rolling out. I freaked out, called my boss, and I was like, how will this apply to those who are remote workers? I was able to get out of it because there was no satellite offices here in Arizona, and I completely can work fully remote. And I ended up getting a religious exemption. I had to hire an attorney. Actually, in the state of Arizona, we went with the Catholic Diocese bioethics charter, in which it basically said that the burden of financial I should say financial disparity would be on the part of the company. They would have to prove that by me not being vaccinated, I would be costing the company costing the company money in the sense of their employees being out because I'm spreading it and all this other stuff. So since I am so far away from Virginia and there aren't any satellite offices in Arizona, I was able to get out of that requirement. I'm not gonna lie, I felt like by me not getting the vaccine, I was definitely pressured at my job. Not gonna lie. I felt like if I did anything wrong, they would fire me. So I knew that type of environment was going to be stressful and something I didn't want to be working in into much longer. So that right there, I think, was another sign from God. I'm not trying to say that vaccines are, evil or whatever, but He didn't want me to get it. The next thing, it was a Friday night. It was a Friday. No, it was a Thursday. It was a Thursday. I had every other Friday off. And I was looking into when all the trucker convoy stuff that was happening up in Canada was going on. There was some talk in the pipeline of a trucker convoy happening here in America. Obviously, with everything going on when it comes to racism and all this other stuff, so many of those who were talking about this potential convoy was saying, "Oh, this is just white supremacists wanting to voice their opinion by driving all the way across the country to DC," right? And I'm like, okay, Canadians doing what they need to do, just to make sure that they can be secure in their job without having to get a vaccine requirement is all that the American truckers are doing too as well. They just want to express that they just want to work without these mandates, without these draconic type, arbitrary rules that didn't go for illegals but applied to us. Um, you can just tell they didn't want to be, bothered by this, and then all of this coming from a very fragile man. So I wanted to join this convoy because I wanted to see for myself, hands first, where are these white supremacists that they keep talking about? Where are all these people I should be so scared of, right? And if it really is, that deep. So I tried searching on YouTube, Google, Facebook. They were trying very hard to either obfuscate you finding the right and the correct information. There were so many fake accounts that were talking about it. You just didn't know which one was real. So that Thursday, the Thursday before my Friday off, I had work from my normal schedule from 6 to 2. And normally right after that, I would, Twitch, streaming, me programming, because I wanted to get better at my job and better at my skills. So I would have my own home lab here, and I would do some, coding and some development. So there was this category all of a sudden that popped up, and it was politics. So I was like, okay, let's see what's on this channel, this Twitch channel. When I got to this Twitch channel, there was, as you can tell, this is right when the pop off with Ukraine or Russia was going on. So when I popped into the political channel, everything was about Ukraine and Russia, Ukraine, Russia. And there was this one video. It was an individual. You can see they were driving, and they had the camera on the top of their vehicle, and you could see the interstate. So I don't know, I'm just curious, and I decided to click on that video. Turns out it was literally the trucker convoy that I had been looking for. And I went in the chat and I said, oh my God, where are they? I know they were leaving from California. At least that much I knew from the grapevine, that they were definitely leaving from California. I just didn't know when, the time, or the date. So I had messaged the person streaming, like, where are they? When did they leave? And where are they going to be for tonight? And if this isn't by the grace of God telling me, girl, pack your shit up, get in the car and go. And figure it out for yourself. Find out with your own eyes what, your politicians are lying about. I don't know what it is. So they had literally left California. They gave me the link of the itinerary, the stops, and the dates, and all this other stuff. Where they were going to stop that night was literally 5 hours away from me from Tucson. It was right at the Arizona-New Mexico border. It was 2:00 in the afternoon. And I said, God, if you're telling me to go, I'm going. I packed all my cameras. I packed a little bag of clothes for me. And I had, stopped along to, I think it was JCPenney's, and picked up as much winter gear as I possibly can, as me as Tucson. So, it wasn't really a lot of, winter clothes there. I literally left in shorts and a little, shirt. And to go up there. And by the time I caught up with them, it was so cold up there in the New Mexico Arizona border. I caught up with them 5 hours later. Well, more like, it was closer to like 11 p.m. by the time I actually got there, because I wanted to get the oil change and all this other stuff. And I made it, and they were all there. Like I said, I think God, or whoever this this unknown variable, move in very mysterious very mysterious ways. And I got to see firsthand the humanity that our administration tries very hard to suppress when it comes to just the beauty of our nation of just not our nation of not being homogenized. There's people here who get along simply because of ideology, not because they have something in common with their skin tone or their language. But it's a beauty to me when I see individuals from all different backgrounds come together under an ideology of freedom and wanting prosperity for all their Americans, and not being on the whims of whatever, being on the whims and being suppressed by their own government. There's something very beautiful in that. I met all sorts of truckers. I met some fine brothers. It was fun. You know, I will never, ever, ever forget that experience. And then the last thing I would say was another sign. So the stuff I had written on my car, it had been on there for a long time, because I was in my conviction. I was standing in my conviction that I was not going to erase all the sentences, all my thoughts that I had written on my car until that man was out of office. When those 13 soldiers died, I don't know, that just triggered something in me that said, this man is my enemy. And I was dead set on keeping all that stuff on my car until that man got out of office. But something told me to go wash my car. I was looking at this video. I was looking at Fox Actual News about, by the updates on the Biden laptop. And right after that, the Biden laptop investigation and cover up. And then right after that, there was a BLM, I watched a reaction to someone talking about the BLM fraudulent behavior when it came to the $80 million that they had collected, and then them buying real estate up in Canada and California. When those things happened together, I felt like, okay, we're going to wash our car and we're going to put BLM, Biden Laptop Matters, on our car, and we don't care what anyone has to say about it. How about this was 2 days? This was literally 2 days before the raid on Mar-a-Lago and the FBI talking about documentations that they feel Trump had obtained illegally and basically when it comes to the classification and national security. And I just thought that was so funny. Like, you're coming after a man who is the sole decider when it comes to declassifying and classifying information, but yet when it comes to Biden laptop, you guys won't even investigate the possibility of national security, the possibility that Biden is maybe implicated as a big guy, the possibility of him, if he is the big guy, being compromised and literally bribed and bought by foreign governments, which in turn he can then be malleable to do the bidding of other governments. It was like a shock to me, because I'm like, I think this was the perfect timing to remind people, how are you going to go after Trump if you supposedly have these documentations that he obtained illegally, but you have a grove of information literally waiting to be investigated on someone's laptop? If this isn't a clear indication of bias, I don't know what it is. And having this done by the FBI and all the other alphabet agencies, it just made me throw up in my mouth. I think God wanted me to remind individuals that He who is without sin, please cast the first stone. You cannot go after this man if you're not going to go after the sitting president. It reeks and causes division in our society and rip it apart basically at the foundations, because you're using our Constitution, you're using our Bill of Rights, you're using our laws that made it possible for you to even exist, to go after a previous president, and you can clearly tell that it's politically motivated. So, I don't know if God has more in store for me, but I will say this. I think God in times activate certain people to do certain things. In times of trouble, that is too. We wouldn't have these individuals throughout history, not only in our own country, but in other countries too, that rise up against corruption when it comes to socialism and communism, to free their people from bondage or slavery, whether that be physically or through the mind. I don't know what causes this spark, but I do believe these individuals are either touched by something, whether it's an angel or God, and I'm pretty sure at times, because it was scary, I'm not gonna lie, I was scared, like me saying and being more vocal, like, what if someone come after me, especially after they fucked up my hood of my car. I haven't had to show anybody, but if they came after my car, what makes me think that they won't come after me? What makes me think they won't come after me or hurt me or harm me in some sort of way, whether that be physically or monetarily, or try to get me to steal my livelihood? Like, I'm pretty sure the Matt Walshes of the world, the Candace Owens of the world, the Tulsi Gabbards of the world, they don't do this. They don't speak up about this without some hesitancy of their own life, possibly being snuffed because of their views. And I'm glad these individuals exist. I'm glad this spirit exists. But I do believe that in times of stress, in times of pain, hurt, I do think God activate individuals to do certain things. Some go on to do great things. Some go on just to stir the pot, to make people open up their eyes and see. It takes a lot of courage to stand up against your enemies, but it takes a lot, I believe, even more, to stand up against your friend and to let them, just to help them see differently. But, I don't know what he has in plan, or God has in store, or as far as his plans for me, but I'm going to keep talking, and I'm going to keep going out here, because some things I just cannot explain. I cannot, and I don't dare to. But let me know if you've had any, crazy experiences like this happen to you over these past couple of years. I would like to hear your stories. All right? Anyways, have a good day. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Bye.